Welcome to Quit to Win, the show where we explore the moments people had to let go of fear, old definition of success, limiting belief in order to step into something more aligned and powerful version of their life. Today's guest is Chris Wood, a certified professional coach, former Google sales leaders, and author of Ball and Brain, a framework for living your best life by overcoming fear and maximizing strength. Chris built a high-level executive career rising to C-suite leadership, but beneath the success was growing misalignment between achievements and fulfillment. At 40, a threatening health event where he flattening in a hospital became a turning point that forced him to redefine success entirely. Now he helps leaders and professionals shift from fear-driven performance to strength-led living. Success became energizing instead of exhausting. Once again, it's really a pleasure and honor to have you on the show, Chris.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. So, Chris, when you look back, what is the first thing you had to quit in order to start living and leading differently?
So I'd say the first thing is fear. So that's a lot. It's a big term and it's a lot easier said than done. But oftentimes, if we take a look at ourselves and take an honest look at ourselves, what really holds us back from living the life that we're capable of living is fear. And what I'd say is, sure, there may be some external barriers to your success and, living the life that you want. But I would say a large percentage of it is our internal. And I'd say that those are fear driven. So the first thing that people need to do, I think, is gain awareness about the fears they have that hold them back from living freely.
Yeah, letting go of fear that held them back from living free. Amazing. At what point did you realize that your definition of success needed to completely rewritten?
So, I know that the title of this podcast is Quit to Win. And in preparation for this, I think I've been a serial quitter. So I'm more than once, and to not spend too much time on it. But the first time was, you mentioned it in my bio, but I flatlined in the hospital at 40 years old. And so that wasn't a voluntary quitting, but it was, it was a higher power telling me, getting my attention, right? And so what that started me on a journey after that was the thing I just mentioned about an awareness around fear-driven habits and fear-driven thought patterns. And so that was the first thing that got me there. And then after that, I had worked at Google at the time and worked with them for another couple of years, but realized that my heart and my strengths really were not in being in a big organization, but in being in a smaller organization that I can have a bigger impact. So I quote unquote quit the big job at Google and then went and worked for smaller companies, because what I wanted to do was have more of an impact and see a small company. So I did that 4 times. And then lastly, I quit again. So I quit working for small companies and decided to actually work for myself. So it's been a journey, but the pattern had been the same in that I decided to take a real look in the mirror on the things that didn't feel authentic to me. So that's why I'm now a coach, helping other people live a more authentic life for themselves.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. That's really lovely having to quit a couple of stuff to be, what is really, and it's really amazing. So, what does most people feel to realize they need to quit before they can actually grow?
So I think they need to quit their thought patterns. And that's a lot easier said than done. But the first thing they need to start before they can quit is gaining an awareness around them. Because oftentimes we're just running on autopilot, right? So all our thoughts and our daily habits and all these things that we do, we've been doing them for the longest time, and it builds up these neural pathways, and it just filters the world the way that we see it. And oftentimes we're not aware, right? We're just like, we feel like the way that we're seeing our lives and the way we're seeing our world is objectively true. And oftentimes it's not, right? It's informed and built by old fear patterns that were probably put upon you, either by someone else, or you started early as your ego's way of trying to protect you. So I think before you can quit things, you actually need to gain an awareness of how you're thinking, right? And how people can do that is to start a journal and start a journal how they're thinking and what's happening in the day-to-day basis, because that's the only way you can first recognize things. And if you even go to a doctor, right, they're not just going to give you a prescription, but they need to diagnose
Yeah.
and need to then see what the symptoms are before they can actually see maybe what the root cause is. And that's the first thing I'd recommend people do, is gain an awareness of their thought pattern before they up and quit.
In the awareness of that thought pattern before going around to it. Yeah, this really speaks a whole lot of volume. And also, you talk about playing offense on your strengths. What does that look like in real life decision making?
Yeah, so that's another one. So that's the other thing that I went through and learned, and how I work with my clients. So I'll just quickly say, you mentioned the book that I have. It's called Balls and Brains. And the balls part of it is meant for people to gain an awareness of their fears. And the brains part of it is not about being good in school, but it's more about getting a real handle on your strengths, and not like just what you kind of think you're good at, but actually do a real audit. Much the same as I want you to do an
Yeah,
audit on your patterns. I want you to do an audit on your real skills. So what I normally have my clients do is a thing called a Clifton's Strengths Finder. It's a diagnostic, takes you about 40 minutes to go through it. And it then gives you a readout. And based on 64 common human strengths, it gives you your top 5 as well as your top 10. And I have people then take a look at those top 5 and be honest with themselves, and how much are they actually lean in to their talents in their day-to-day work life or personal life. And that ends up being a real opportunity, because oftentimes people have put themselves into roles that they're swimming upstream, right? That not playing to their strengths, and more like working to try to overcome their deficiencies. And I'm not saying that in general there's anything wrong with that, but my big kind of stake in the ground is, I don't want you to work on your weaknesses. I want you to double down on your strengths,
yeah,
because that's what you were put here on earth to do. You have these talents, but then also how much better you can get when you put that effort into something you're already good at, as opposed to putting all that toil into something that you're not that good at.
yeah. Amazing. Strengthening that which you are good at. Yeah, and letting go some of those things that, yeah, you are not good at. Even if you work on it, the possibility of being good is not even sure. So yeah, work more on what your strength is. Yeah, it's really amazing. So how do you distinguish fear that protects you and the fear that limits you?
Very good question, right? Because fear itself is not bad. It's the whole reason that nature instilled it in us and in all the rest of nature, is to keep you safe, right? And it's the reason why you and I are here today, is because our ancestors had that, right? And it's the whole idea is it's meant to protect you so you can get your genes into the next generation, right? So what ends up happening in this more kind of modern world of ours is, we're fortunate enough that we're not being chased home by lions or jackals, fearing that we're, oftentimes that we're going to, have to fight, literally fight fisticuffs our way to safety. That does happen sometimes, but in general, our daily fears are mostly psychological, and they're way that we are reacting to external stimulus, right? So what I always say, and I believe it, is life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. Think about it. A lot of times, these patterns that we have, these fear driven patterns, aren't actually responding, it's reacting, right? So you're reacting as opposed to responding. You're not thinking it through. You're just, this is what it is, and this is how I've done it for the longest time. So it's one thing I always say to people is to try to get out of the anxiety of the future or the depression of thinking about the past, and say, be here now, right? What is happening right now, and what can I do? So I won't move my camera, but I've got it actually posted up here on the wall. It says, be here now. And that's one of the first things I always recommend to people, is to try to bring themselves back. Now, they talk about meditation brings you back to the breath and all these other. I'm not saying to stop in the middle of your day and just meditate all the time. I'm saying first off about gaining awareness about your thought patterns and bringing yourself back to right now. And this fear that you referenced is, ask yourself the question, am I actually in danger right now? Or is this something that I'm creating in my head?
Mm,
And that's the first thing that then brings you back to right now. It brings you back to your breath. It brings you back to the only moment that matters, which is right now. And from there, you can decide how you are now responding as opposed to reacting. So bringing an awareness in and asking yourself, where am I right now? And what am I afraid of? is gives you the awareness and resets you in the present.
Yeah, amazing. Actually asking that particular question that yes, I think it's really giving that it forced you to think about it and getting to know what the one that's for you towards growth and the one that just owing to fear for fearing sake. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
So,
amazing.
so I would say on that too, knowing that the podcast here is Quit to Win, and people have examples of people who've quit and they've won. What I encourage my clients to do who are thinking about quitting is listen, I'm the last person to tell you not to, right? I've done it 3 times
Yeah,
as well, what I always want to encourage them to do is that have it be a conscious decision as opposed to a reaction. And so this gets back to the whole idea of gaining awareness around your thoughts, gaining awareness around your fear driven thoughts, and then putting a plan in place. Because what I always say about being able to take you from where you are to where you want to go is let's set it up as an evolution as opposed to a revolution, right? Because revolutions are messy and scary,
yeah,
but evolutions are natural, right? So we're
yeah,
talking about how everything works. So how can I work with clients or clients even set it up themselves to set up steps on these things to then quit, right? So that they know where they're going next. And the last thing I'll say on that, they used to teach us this when I worked at Google of a way to encourage clients when they were going to change the way they were doing something is imagine you are in a jungle and you're swinging from a vine and going from vine to vine. The best way and only way to successfully do that is when you're swinging from one vine to the next, make sure you've got the next vine in your hand before you let go of this one,
yeah,
right? And so that's what I always say to people is like, if you're swinging from vine to vine, don't let go of this vine if you don't have a very good handle on
yeah.
the.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's really lovely being that this actually strike a balance between letting go and grabbing what the next one be so that at the end of the day, being the crossroads where you're stranded.
Yeah, that's right.
So what role did your health crisis play in shifting how you make decisions?
So I think it caused me to have an awareness about how much pretty much everything was fear driven in the past. And so when I was then told after they installed a pacemaker in my chest, they said, you probably have another 40 or 50 years to live. I said, what a gift if I have another 40 or 50 years.
Yeah,
What do I want to do differently? And again, I don't want to blow up my life. You know, I had a job, I had, wife and kids and all these other things. And what's the stuff I want to start doing differently? And it was gaining an awareness of and then changing the fear driven patterns that were essentially running my life behind the scenes. So that's the biggest thing I took from it is a gratitude that I had another shot at doing it right and didn't feel like I wanted to take the next 40 years off.
yeah,
I wanted to live it differently.
yeah. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. So, looking back, is there something you wish you would have quit earlier in your journey?
Yeah. And so I'd say it's working hard to impress others. So I was working to succeed for myself, but I also wanted to build a resume and an obituary so that people could
Yeah,
say, wow, look at all the things that he accomplished, right? And,
yeah,
and I remember then thinking about it afterwards. I'm like, imagine if I had lived the rest of my life thinking that way, that
yeah,
I wanted people to be impressed with me. Why? So
yeah.
when I'm dead and gone and people say, wow, he did a good job. I'm like, no, that's silly. I want to live so that I'm actually enjoying this right now.
Hmm.
That's the biggest kind of change in thought process.
Yeah, amazing. Quitting from impressing people, just being you. Yeah, that's really amazing. I thank you so much for sharing. So, lastly, what does winning means to you now compared to before your transformation?
So winning was the building of the resume, the paycheck. Although I never really cared about the money, but the money
Yeah,
was essentially like scorekeeping, And so my definition of winning now is I enjoy my life. I don't do things for anyone else's perspective. I do it for mine and to be able to help others. So I'm not in a job where I'm chasing sales and trying to hit a number so that my boss is happy with me. I am running this coaching business so that I am working with people who can benefit from my, experience, training, education on this stuff so that I can help them live a better life for longer, right? So that they don't have to flatline in a hospital at 40 to come to an
Yeah.
open. They can benefit from mine. And
Yeah.
so the fact that I can do that is a huge win for me.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. So from our audience, we would love to reach out to you and get your book too. And how can they reach out to you? And where's the best platform?
Yeah, so I say this often because it's just easy for people to remember. So my name is Chris Woods. It's a very simple name, right? People always thought it was a fake name that I made up, but it's not. So it's
Yeah.
Chris Woods with an S, and I'm a coach, right? So my website is just chriswoodscoach.com. And so there you can get the link to my book on Amazon, Balls and Brains, a framework for living your best life by overcoming fears and maximizing strengths. And there's also more information about how I work with clients and testimonials from happy clients. And then lastly, if people are interested in getting in touch with me there's a message me button that people can reach out to. So would love to hear from people who my message has resonated with, because I'm here to help.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. This has really been amazing. Story challenge people who look successful on the outside but feel stuck on the inside, and shows that real change often begins when we actually quit fear-based living. Yeah, to actually more like living our best. Yeah, it's really amazing. And once again, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.